Gen.Dempsey, you have announced the plan to reposition your naval fleet to Asia and Pacific. By 2020, you have 60% of your warships in this area.
Yeah.
Are you that afraid of China, really?
No, in fact, and by the way, when you said reposition, let me put
What is the naval word for it?
Sure, yeah. Now let me put a little different edge on the word. It's really, we're rebalancing, and in that sense, I'd offer we're doing three things.
Yes.
We are paying more attention to the Asia Pacific, because after 10 years of conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan, our attention has been focused almost exclusively, not exclusively, but very nearly. So we're going to pay more attention to our long-standing interest in as a Pacific power in the Asia Pacific, to our allies, and as you know, Thailand is our longest-standing ally in this region at about 179 years. So more interest, more engagement,
yes,
which means fundamentally it means building relationships, human capital, the human dimension, and then more quality.
Yes.
So the best of our equipment, the best of our ballistic missile defense, the best of our aviation, the best of what we've got will be in the Pacific.
Why so?
Well, because if as a student of history and a student of economics, I would suggest to you that the world's economic power, the world's military power, most of its demographic issues are migrating to the Asia Pacific or are already here, and I think we intend to make sure that we are where we need to be positioned where we need to be to address the challenges of the future, not just continue to pay attention to the challenges of today.
We're also asking Thailand for use of Utapao base for military purposes.
No, not yet. We might get to that purpose. We already, by the way, have...
Not yet, meaning that it is in the pipeline. It is being discussed.
Not yet, meaning it is being discussed, but neither side has taken a decision. So let me explain Utapao. Utapao has been has helped us flow forces throughout the world for some time. You know, we have a long history at Utapao.
Yeah, I was covering Vietnam War, and I was at Utapao very often.
Of course, and
B-52s, you know,
I know,
taking off, landing.
Right. Well, we're not doing that. No. What we are doing is, as we do exercises like Cobra Gold, for example, Utapao becomes a very important logistics hub for that exercise. As a result of Cobra Gold, General Tanasak and I this year have discussed the possibility that at some point in the future, if we can agree on how to do it and when to do it, that Utapao might become a, let's call it a humanitarian assistance, disaster relief center of excellence. It's perfectly placed to do that. If we decide that collaboratively, if we set a timeline and milestones, we'll move toward that. But we haven't made that decision yet. We're just exploring the possibility.
Could it also lead eventually to becoming a naval base? Like Clark in the Philippines, like Cam Ranh Bay in Vietnam?
Yeah.
I see.
No, I understand.
When I look at the map, I see Clark in the Philippines. I see Utapao. And I see Cam Ranh Bay. Perfect triangular strategy for the rebalancing of the United States Navy.
You know,
don't you think so?
I might have to bring you to the Pentagon, actually. Do I think so? Not the use of the word base, because one of the things I assure you is I'm not carrying around with me a bag of American flags and planting them everywhere I go. I mean, that's not what this is about. This is about us coming to Thailand and saying, look, you know, we've had 179 years of relationship. What's next? Because we don't want the relationship to be stagnant. And the what next for now appears to be humanitarian assistance, disaster relief. Could it at some point be a place where one of our littoral combat ships, you know, we've now decided to manage and rotate 4 littoral combat ships, our most technologically advanced multi-role ship into Singapore. They're not going to be based in Singapore. They're going to be managed out of Singapore. They'll make port calls throughout the region. And could one of those places be Utapao? Sure, it could. Could one of those places be Bangkok, actually? Sure. That's a decision, though, that we won't make autonomously. We'll provide options and opportunities, and we'll see what our partners wish to do.
This will be regular visits, regular patrol sort of visits. Right?
Well, regular engagement and intended to both provide our presence, but also to help build the capability and capacity of our partners.
But also, there was also a story last week that NASA is looking at the possibility of Utapao being used for its scientific purposes. How does that and the Navy's activities are going to get together or combined together?
Yeah, completely unrelated.
Completely.
Completely. NASA is a separate agency of government, has nothing to do at all with the Department of Defense. Now, that said, because I'd read the same story and knew I was traveling, I did my homework. And of course, I asked the question, why is NASA interested in Utapao as a potential location?
Right.
And it's because they have some particular meteorological capabilities. They think that from there they could do a better job of helping predict some of the incidents that might result in monsoons of particular violence and duration that might help in the future avoid some of the things like the floods last year. I'm not in NASA, but I understand why they want to be there. But what I can tell you is completely separate.
What's your scenario 10 years from now in Asia Pacific in terms of security issues?
I think that the issues 10 years from now will be security issues related to economics. The competition for scarce resources, unless managed. I think that demographic issues. There's many countries in the region, who are demographically in decline, where the birth rate is not supporting the growth of their economies. And I think that those economic, if we don't manage those economic issues very carefully and frequently between now and you said 10 years, so that's 2022. Then I think economic issues will drive us to the point of having security challenges. And so I think, again, our rebalancing is intended to be in a position to help shape that future rather than be victimized by it.
Is Thailand going to be safer 10 years from now?
Absolutely.
Yes, because of your help? Because of your presence?
Well, let me state that a little differently. I mean, what I found to be fascinating about Thailand, it's not about our help. It's about what I see, the direction I see, and I can only speak for the Thailand, the Royal Thai Armed Forces, because the rest of the country has other stakeholders that interact with it. But I'm very proud of what the Royal Thai Armed Forces have been doing. I mean, they just today returned a unit from Sudan where they were involved in a peacekeeping operation. As you know, they performed very well. 50,000 of them last year during the floods. I think they're a force that genuinely feels that their first responsibility is to represent and care for the people. And that's the mark of a professional force. The other thing I noticed about them is they are very aggressive about building their minds, so that what I mentioned earlier, the way you become a force for good in the world is not just have the best weapons, but also the best minds.
Right.
And I see a genuine commitment on the part of your military leaders to build your officer corps, your non-commissioned officers, and those who are serving, to build in them a sense of purpose and value that I think allows me to answer your question with optimism.
What should Thailand as a small country do? China is a big neighbor. United States is coming in strong. You're back in Asia, you say. Russia may look at the rebalancing act of the United States here as a threat. China is not that happy, although it says it will try to accommodate that. Thailand sits in the middle of this. How should Thailand behave itself?
Let me go back to economics. The engine that will, I think, propel Thailand is an economic engine. And as you know, you're doing rather well economically. I think that economic well-being can be a force for good in the region, and I think that an investment into your armed forces so that they are a force for stability in the region is a worthwhile investment. I also think Thailand is uniquely positioned because of your geostrategic location to engage all of the nations who sit around you. And in fact, today we had a very candid conversation about your military leaders' engagement with China. And I said, I encourage that.
You encourage that?
I encourage that.
Yeah.
I think that the more that we can engage China, both bilaterally and multilaterally, I think the better off we're going to be. And I think you are uniquely positioned to do that.
We don't want China to think that we are being used by the United States.
I don't want China.
We don't want Washington to think that we are too scared of China to be your friend.
Right.
So you think we are behaving okay?
I do.
So we are balancing ourselves properly?
In my military judgment, I am what you see. I'm a military leader.
Yeah.
But I am a student of history and a student of economics and a student of international relations. And I would say that I think Thailand is well positioned to be a force for good well into the future.
Thank you very much, General Dempsey.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.